Hello there, we're back for a new week on the channel. Once again, we're going to peer into the future or the potential future for Celtic on today's video. Why? Because it's a little bit more exciting and invigorating than the present day stuff. Listen, I could sit here and do tactics discussions on the 2-1 win over Motherwell on Saturday, but I feel like it would be more enjoyable for everyone if we look to the future and what could be happening at Celtic from the summer onwards. So obviously we already know that Dominic Mackay will be coming in the day after Peter Law leaves Celtic Park, packs his bags for good, hopefully. Dom Mackay will come in 1st of July. He has a hell of a lot to do at the club. He has a lot of experience in certain parts of business. He has a pretty good reputation at Scottish rugby. The one thing Dom Mackay, and I'm calling him Dom now, we'll see if that sticks. The one thing he doesn't have is footballing experience. Why? Because he simply hasn't worked for a football club before. So this is where we got the reports over the weekend that I found really interesting. They came from the Sun's writer Alan Nixon, who was reporting that a guy called Fergal Harkin could be being lined up as a potential director of football or something of that ilk. Basically someone to come in and to help Dom Mackay with football operations. So we're going to play you the intro sting and then we're going to get into who is Fergal Harkin. In fact, I told a wee lie there. Before we get into who is Fergal Harkin, I'm going to quickly ask you that if you've not yet subscribed to the channel, now is the perfect time to do it. So many of you watch our videos and aren't yet subscribed, so if you want to put that right, help us get to our targets for the month, that would be massively, massively appreciated. Right, take it away, Fergal. Right, the first thing I need to point out about our man Fergal Harkin, who may or may not be coming to Celtic, and you can use this next bit of information to judge him or not judge him, it's completely up to you. He actually doesn't have a Wikipedia page, which I found kind of interesting. I mean, everyone's got a Wikipedia page nowadays. I'm probably virgin on one with 10k subs. I'm joking, of course, but I did find it interesting that I had to go to his LinkedIn for any sort of proper information on him. On that LinkedIn, though, I found a lot of information. Now, his actual job title, per his official LinkedIn page at Manchester City, is Football Partnerships and Pathways Manager. Okay, so that's what he does. He's been in that role for about 6 years at Man City. His total time at the runaway English Premier League leaders is about double that, so he's been there for about 12 years. That timeline is pretty interesting, and I'll touch on that a wee bit later on in the video, why I think that's important. Prior to that, he worked for Nike. I think he had 2 or 3 different roles at Nike. He is a former footballer, actually. You've not heard of him. He's probably not a household name, it's fair to say, but he was once a teammate of our current manager Neil Lennon during his Leicester City days when the pair played there. But yeah, he had a career, played for Leicester, mainly played his career in his homeland of the Republic of Ireland. Unsurprisingly, with a name like Fergal Harkin, he is from the Republic of Ireland. Played for the likes of Bohemians, Finn Harps, teams like that. Not a hugely high level, but I mean, Brendan Rodgers and Jose Mourinho didn't really play at a high level either, so I wouldn't hold that against him. His main role at Manchester City currently is to oversee the players who are out on loan from Manchester City. So players Man City have loaned out to other clubs. Now you may be thinking immediately that that's actually quite a small remit. Surely one guy doesn't just handle that, surely he does other stuff. But when you consider that just over the last decade or so, we've had Jason Denayer, we've had John Guidetti, we've had Paddy Roberts, we've had Daniel Arzani, all on loan from Man City, even Olivier Ncham, who didn't come to us on loan, but is one of the many players who City loan out every season, or they did in the past. Man City can loan out around 40 players every season, so you're starting to see how much work this guy had to do. It wasn't a small task by any manner of means, and Man City take all this stuff really seriously. So that's what he's doing at the moment. As I said at the start of the video, he's been linked with this possible new role that's going to be made at Celtic when Dom Mackay comes in as a director of football. Will it come to pass? Will it even be named director of football? Will it be sporting director? You get the gist, and it seems like this fella Fergal Harkin is possibly being lined up for it. So the comment I was going to make about the fact he's been at Man City for around about 12, 13 years. Funnily enough, they were first bought over in 2008. That's when they became a rich club, and have obviously been on a real journey since then. You can say what you want about Man City and the money coming from, rich people in the Middle East, but in terms of their actual organic growth, a lot of the off-field stuff in terms of youth development and recruitment has really been brought up to speed. But I think Fergal Harkin can bring these so-called Premier League standards to Celtic. I think he'd bring real knowledge of player pools. He'd be aware of loads of young players, aspiring players. He knows how to keep young players happy, as most of the players he would have dealt with in City would have been youngsters out on loan. So that could be important when you see the amount of youngsters currently leaving Celtic. Celtic and Man City do have a pretty good relationship. I've mentioned all of those players earlier on. Jeremy Frimpong, you can of course add him to the list as well. We signed him, albeit on a permanent transfer from Man City. So maybe there's a relationship that can continue to be worked on there if Harkin was to come into the club. My main issue with this whole director of football thing and the transition that we're facing at Celtic in the summer is time. We know that Don Mackay is going to come in on the 1st of July. We know that our first competitive game of next season is probably going to be first week in August. I think we're third round of the Champions League that we'll go into. So it's not a lot of time for a chief executive to come into the role, to size everything up, to appoint a director of football, ideally, who would then help to appoint a new manager, ideally, who would then ideally look to bring in 10 or 12 new players, with loads leaving as well. It's a really big task that's facing Don Mackay when he comes in, and I just wonder if they may look to make an announcement about a director of football earlier than when Don Mackay is expected to come in at the start of July. One main reason for me saying that is that season ticket renewals will be due very soon. I don't know exactly, but I would say in the next couple of months, Celtic will be coming to supporters, sticking their arm out again and saying, can we have some money? And the truth is that supporters aren't, on whole, going to give that money unless they've had some sort of assurances or some sort of positive, concrete plans for what's going to happen next season. And Dominic Mackay coming in for Peter Law is great news, but we're going to want a change of management as well, and we're going to want a clear, concise plan for how we can get back to a rightful place as the best team in Scotland, a place we've been in for virtually the whole 21st century. So I think it's important to note that the club will need to give supporters something. It can't just be the usual sound bites. It can't just be the usual Daily Record or Scottish Sun rumour about Rafa Benitez being a new manager or been linked to Republic of Ireland International. It's going to have to be something more substantial for supporters to take it this season. But I think to kind of finish on a positive note, as much as this channel and other YouTube Celtic channels and Celtic podcasts and Celtic websites have generally been quite negative over the last wee period, we don't want to be like that, and supporters as a whole don't want to be like that. We want to be positive about our team. We want to be enthused about the team we support. We don't want to sit and moan about them and bemoan the fact that we've fallen X number of points behind and everything's terrible and we're disaster after disaster. We want to be happy. And I think hopefully Dominic Mackay coming in and bringing in someone like Fergal Harkin can give supporters a reason to be happy. With regards to Nick Hammond, I thought it was quite telling that Celtic didn't make any major signings, any permanent signings in the January transfer window. I know some people will point out that that's maybe because they didn't have faith in Neil Lennon long term. I would argue that even if they didn't have faith in Neil Lennon and they did have faith in the recruitment in terms of Nick Hammond, then they would still have pushed ahead with some big transfers. I thought it was really telling that the club didn't sign any players permanently in January. They're clearly not totally convinced, to put it mildly, with Nick Hammond. So could it be that his short time at Celtic is going to come to an end in the summer and he could be replaced by someone like Fergal Harkin in a more all-encompassing role? Hopefully, that's what we all want to see. There's so many parts of Celtic need to improve drastically. Basically every part of the club, the communication to fans, the leadership, the youth development, the scouting, the recruitment, the coaching staff needs to be improved, the on-pitch performance evidently needs to be improved. But there's reasons to be excited. I think it's really, really positive that Dom Mackay from these reports is going to be looking to bring someone in a football role to make the football decisions. I think Peter Lawwell has had too much influence for too long in the footballing decisions, and hopefully we are at the start of a bright new dawn for Celtic.